Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth, and joining me tonight on the broadcast is Rick Curti. How you doing, Rick?
Hey, how you doing, Scott?
We're doing all right. Doing the best we can with all the COVID-19 developments surrounding a team that I'm working with, the Miami Marlins. So, obviously looking for updates. So we're doing all right. And Les Wolff joins us as well. How you doing, Les?
Outstanding. I'm here in New York, so thank God we're okay.
Yeah, thankfully you guys are okay. I know that you guys had the lead there when it came to the virus, but boy, I'll tell you what, this thing is getting wind and getting it wind really bad. So let's recap a lot of what has gone on. The Miami Marlins season, opening day against the Baltimore Orioles at Marlins Park not only got canceled today, but they're not playing again tomorrow. So, Rick, your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, I've been saying this since April that MLB needs to shut it down for 2021 in all sports. It's just Russian roulette. It's just dangerous. It's not worth it, especially when you have a real short season like Major League Baseball has it. Not surprised, unfortunately. I wish, I wanted to be proven wrong, but this thing is so dangerous and just unrelenting, and it's unfortunate, but not surprising at all.
Well, 11 minutes ago, Rob Manfred said the Marlins COVID-19 outbreak is not a nightmare scenario. Well, I mean, if you're looking for a knee-jerk reaction, you're not going to get it from him, right, Les Wolff?
You're right, but I got news for you. This is not even the second wave yet.
Right.
The second wave is coming. That's going to make it even crazier. Mm-hmm. We had it hit here in New Rochelle in a temple, and that's where it first started here, and it spread like wildfire. Our governor got it under control right now, but it's got to be everybody. It can't just be some of the people that are doing the right thing. Everybody's got to be wearing a mask. They got to be washing their hands. They got to be taking precautions. But everybody thinks because it got a little better that it was okay to do whatever they want to. But that's just not acceptable. I mean, I've lost about a half a dozen people that I've known, including a doctor that passed away from this virus. So nobody is immune to this. And until the world starts really taking this seriously and starts listening up, will this ever possibly end? But remember, this is not even the second phase yet. Wait till the second phase, and that's where it's going to get even worse and harder. We got to really take this seriously. And sports, like Rick said before, had no business to start up. When athletes are giving up, like a David Price is giving up $1 million contract to stay home to be safe with his family, that should be the first indication that some of these guys really get it. And we got guys that are playing basketball that unfortunately have to leave the bubble, like Zion Williamson, to take care of family things. Then they come back. No matter what, you get tested every day. There's a possibility that they could have caught it. God forbid, but realistically, this has to be, they can't do anything until there's a cure, or there's a vaccine or something.
All right, well, let me go over this. Following the Marlins COVID-19 outbreak that has caused the postponement of their home opener, Miami Marlins have released a statement, and it's from CEO Derek Jeter. I will read this to you guys, okay? The health of our players and staff has been and will continue to be our primary focus as we navigate through these uncharted waters. After a successful spring 2.0, we now have experienced challenges once we went on the road and left Miami. Postponing tonight's home opener was the correct decision to ensure we take a collective pause and try to properly grasp the totality of this situation. We have conducted another round of testing for our players and staff, and our team will all remain in Philadelphia pending the results of those tests, which we expect later today. We will provide additional information as it becomes available. So, Rick, what's your take on that statement, unless you can follow?
Well, I mean, it's a good statement. He's caring about his players. He's just taking a day-by-day approach. He doesn't know, just like we don't know. That's the scary part. Seems like they're going to take it day by day and see how it goes. But I mean, it's the right thing for him to do. I mean, you have to. You have no choice. So, it's I applaud Derek Jeter for what he said and what he did. And like the rest of us, we're all going through uncharted waters, and we'll see what happens with them.
Go ahead, Les.
I agree with Derek. You have to take precautions. This is like war on a virus. You have to take care of the people that work for you, and you have to take care of everybody. And he's gonna. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Derek is a very smart man. If he doesn't say, listen, we've got widespread. We're gonna have to cancel our season. I mean, I can see that happening. Some of these owners are gonna have to, chalk up the big losses that they're going to have and just say, listen, everybody's life matters more than this virus, and we're gonna have to suspend the season.
Well, I was on
I think Rob Manfred has been sitting on his hands for a long time and not addressing what really needs to be addressed, the fact that the season needs to be canceled.
Well, there's perception and reality. I was on the Marlins Zoom call yesterday, and I'm going to tell you the look on Don Mattingly's face, to me, said it all. I mean, asking questions. There were some game-related questions. And, of course, there were a lot of COVID questions, which, as a result, you go out there and realize that this poor guy has to deal with these things. And all of a sudden, you look at the numbers, I think 13 people were affected by it. I think you're looking at around 11 players and 2 coaches. I mean, that's high. And the cause and effect is the New York Yankees were supposed to play in Philadelphia tonight. No way. They apparently those 2 games against the Phillies and Philadelphia have been canceled, so it looks like the Yankees will be staying in New York for the foreseeable future. So,
I personally think, like I said before, I think this is the tip of the iceberg, and I think eventually baseball is going to have to cancel the season. I think Rob Manfred should be proactive and say, based upon what has happened, as much as we'd love to have a season, this is getting to be widespread. This has already affected 4 teams that were playing, and it's canceling an opening day. I think it's time we just shut it down and look after the safety and well-being of everybody having to do with these teams and the players themselves, and move forward for next year.
Well, when you think about what I heard earlier today on ESPN, I don't know whether Jessica Mendoza made the statement, but it was a lot of their analysts talked about it, so we'll just give ESPN the credit on this. The Korea Baseball Organization, a.k.a. the KBO, said if there was one corona test, they were going to shut it down for a couple of weeks. Well, thankfully, the KBO has been able to continue playing on, and they began in May, but you're talking how many teams in the KBO, 8 or 10 of them, compared to 30, so the probability of an outbreak is far greater, with the MLB than it is KBO. But, we still had a chance to look at the KBO and judge it. But I don't know, do you think that that's a fair assessment, Rick Curti?
Well, the thing with South Korea is that they've had very, very, very little infections and deaths. I think the other day they had 17, and what it points to is leadership, and we have no leadership in our country. And then over there, their president did something about it right away, and so they made it mandatory. You got to wear a mask, and they did, and they have very, very, very low risk there. Where here it's just so bad. So that's the reason why the KBO has been so successful, is because they're taking it seriously. They have leadership. People are listening and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And here we just have people that just don't care and are arrogant and just think it's never going to happen to me. And it's not enforced. Even though it says you have to wear a mask, people are not wearing masks. Even if you go to a store, you can't turn people away if they don't have a mask. So, that's the difference between what's happening in South Korea and what's happening here in the United States.
Okay, go ahead, Les.
Rick, you're absolutely right there. And it's just, if you don't nip it at the bud, like they did in Korea, it's going to be widespread. You just have to do something about it. And right now, our leadership sucks. Unfortunately, pardon my language, but when you have a president that walks around with no masks and you have people following following him, it sets a very bad principle. It's like when you go to school, you have a teacher that's hopefully teaching you, how to do things when you're little, and you look up to that teacher. Well, this is a president that's leading a country. It's not just a class; it's a country, and it's just crazy that we're not. We should be ahead of all the other countries, and we're behind because we're not doing the right thing. And to me, that says it in a nutshell.
Well, I rarely ever talk politics on any of these shows, and I won't for the most part, but I will make reference to this because I know everybody's dancing around it anyways. If there's anything that dooms, and I repeat, dooms Donald Trump's presidency, President Donald Trump, it will be his handling of the COVID-19 situation where he took the virus lightly, and now look at the repercussions.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a world that's hungry for sports. We've been inside for almost 6 months now. And, we want to have it. It's desperate. We need it. And then when you see these guys that are just like you and me, they put their pants on and their clothes on the same way as everybody else.
Right.
And they have to make a living, but it's like going to war. You're sacrificing everything just to play a sport when they should be protecting themselves and protecting their families and just calling it. That's it. The players' union should be saying to the owners, listen, as much as we love to play, we can't do this. This is too widespread. And we just have a couple of teams now. Those 13 players, 11 players and 2 coaches. How did they get it? How did they contracted? Now, once you find out where they got it from, then it's going to be how many more other people got it from them. Where did they catch it from? I mean, it multiplies. It's not just 1 or 2 people. I mean, it keeps on multiplying and multiplying, and this is not good. This is terrible.
No, it really isn't. I mean, when you think about the domino effect, I think everybody knows where I'm going with this. If MLB's struggling, holy moly for the NFL.
Yep, and they're continuing to say that they're going to make their fans wear masks, which is, I mean, you just shake your head like, wake up. I mean, it's just greed, and, it's all about money, and we're going to try and do this, and we're going to try really hard. And you can try all you want, but this virus is beating us, and, you got people, not everybody's going to wear a mask there. I'm sorry to say that. They're not going to do it. And I don't think they're going to turn money down if someone doesn't wear a mask. And you got, let's say you got 10,000 people there at a game. I mean, that's ludicrous. I mean, you might as well sign your death warrant. So the NFL just really needs to wake up and just be honest, just like Manfred needs to be honest and say it's not a problem. Of course it's a problem. It's a huge problem. And he needs to kind of tell people, hey, we need to do something about this right now, and he's not doing his job.
I'll go one step further, and I agree with you, Scott. I don't think that it should be political, but in this particular instance, I think it should be a president should make an order, say something, and just say, listen, as much as I love sports, as much as the world loves sports, especially the United States, we have a lot of people involved. I think for everybody's well-being, I think we should suspend any season until we have some kind of cure. And we want to protect the athletes and protect their families. And I think that should be said. I mean, that's my opinion, and I think that's the only way to really show the American people that we're being proactive, not waiting for things to happen. We're trying to take the bull by the horns and just attack this and really work on this and think of everybody's well-being, not just a couple of people. Take care of everybody. What do you think of that, Scott?
Well, I agree. I mean, let's take this even a little bit further, okay? Right now, Manfred has said the owners did not discuss the possibility of canceling the season during a conference call on Monday. He also defended MLB's decision to use teams' home ballparks during the pandemic instead of creating a localized bubble environment. In NHL, the NBA, MLS have all created bubbles, and each of the leagues have had relative success avoiding a coronavirus outbreak. Granted that, first of all, I've maintained my position that the NHL if I were a betting man, probably does finish their season. They're playing in a country like Canada where COVID-19 isn't as rampant. So I like their odds. The NBA, well, I mean, depends on if some of these players decide to step out of the bubble and leave themselves in a jackpot where they leave themselves susceptible. The MLS has done all right, but meanwhile, I believe one of the franchises had to withdraw because they didn't have enough players available, so there have been a little bit of holes in the MLS. I think the WNBA will be fine. So, there was no way that MLB could have had a bubble. I'll say that much. There's just absolutely no way that they could have done it. So they were damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
You can't play indoors. I mean, you can play it indoors, but you can't. I mean, how many indoor stadiums do we have that they could capacity, all the teams? You don't have enough.
Well, I wouldn't quite say that because when you think of the way the NHL has it, their main stadiums are the one in Edmonton that houses the Edmonton Oilers, Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm sure they have a couple of NHL-compatible rinks. But if you were to break down each of the areas, in Arizona you have the Diamondbacks, over at Chase Field. Here in the Florida area, you got Tropicana Field out in St. Petersburg, and you have Marlins Park right downtown or near downtown. In Texas, you have the Rangers place. I think it's Globe Park Field now. I'm almost sure that it is. And then you also have Minute Maid Park. So you have about 6 or 7 to be suitable if you broke them up in specific areas. And of course, if you really wanted to take it to a certain level, depending on looking at all the dome stadiums available, you can even take these games and take them to Milwaukee, where I don't know how high the virus is there. But no matter where you go, this thing's going to spread. And you guys are right. It did not even go ahead and, your stats are going to be varying from day to day. They are, depending where you are. So there's no way to win. Obviously, you need a vaccine that's a ways out. So I don't think there's any real capable way of dealing with that.
I mean, the only way possible if we had enough indoor stadiums, if all the sports could merge their stadiums, like Dallas, if the Astros and the Rangers could play indoors, at Cowboy Stadium. Or if it were possible here in New York, if they could play in Madison Square Garden, which I doubt it.
Yeah, well, come on, let's get real here. You can't play baseball at Madison Square Garden. What are you looking for? Indoor baseball? Seriously, man?
Well, I'm just saying
you're creating a new sport.
This is just proves the point that there should be more indoor stadiums.
All right, but really,
for the safety of the athletes and the people.
Okay, but meanwhile, you're in a metropolitan area where your COVID numbers are high. Well, that ain't going to matter what stadium you're in. I mean, let's face it, every staff out there is going to try to go ahead and make sure it's as clean as possible. It obviously failed now, but we don't even know where the Marlins got most of the COVID-19 situation. Did it happen in Atlanta, and then they got to Philadelphia when the test took place? I wouldn't be surprised if they got hit in Georgia, like Rick was talking about. You say that the numbers were high in Georgia, and all of a sudden, and then Philadelphia, unfortunately, is a scapegoat because that's where the tests were announced. So then, what do you have?
No, you guys are right. Something's got to be done. It's got to be done soon, and all indications, all roads are leading towards suspend the season.
Yeah, I think they'll make an announcement this week. I think by the end of the week, they're going to cancel the season.
Well, all right. So let's interesting point. Les Wolff, here, give me the over/under. How many weeks is it before the season gets canceled? Weeks.
Weeks?
Yeah.
Right now, we have 4 teams that are involved. The Yankees and the Phillies are that games are done. The Marlins. And whatever any team that they're supposed to play, so that's 4 teams that are involved right now. We only have an outbreak on 1 team right that we know of.
Well, the Cincinnati Reds got bitten over the weekend.
Within 2 to 3 weeks, it's gonna, when you have 4 teams that are involved, it's gonna snowball. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I would say by the end of August, if Manfred is smart, he automatically just suspends the season and say, listen, the well-being of the athletes and all the people involved with all these teams, we're going to shut down the season. Hopefully for next season we'll be able to start it up. And then watch, you're going to see the NFL follow suit. The NBA is trying, because of the bubble, they're trying to keep it going in the NHL. I think they're eventually going to have to suspend their seasons also.
All right, so you're doing a great job, as Brett Favre would do, and that's waffling. I gave you, I asked you a straight, direct question, Les. How many weeks? Now you're telling me 2 to 3. Now the end of August. Somehow, some way, I'm suffering from a disease called dementia, folks, and I made it up. DUMBMENTIA. So, Les Wolff, I guess I have to take my position and ask you the question another time, because I want to make sure we register the right number, so when we bring on a few weeks from now, you'll be recorded with your answer. How many weeks will it take before Rob Manfred?
Right now we're at the end of July right now. I'd say by the end of August.
So that's 4 weeks.
4 weeks, yes.
Well, good. So my mathematics isn't failing. 4 weeks for Les Wolff, right, Rick? You heard that?
Yep.
All right. Your turn.
End of the week, they're going to shut it down.
End of the week. Okay.
Yeah, by the end of this week, by Friday, Saturday, sometime by Friday or over the weekend, they're going to shut it down, because you're going to get more and more teams testing positive. More players are going to say, forget this, I ain't doing it, and people are going to test positive for it. Players, coaches, managers, whoever. This thing doesn't care. So by the end of the week, they're going to shut it down.
So we'll just say, hypothetically, you're going to say by what, Friday or Sunday?
I will say by, I'll give it Sunday.
So you're saying August the 2nd, right?
Yep.
All right, just making sure we have this down here. Okay. And Les Wolff, okay, we've got, so you're telling me August, you're going to say August 31, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know why I'm saying that? Because I think because we have a commissioner that is like a lame duck commissioner that is, he's mainly for the owners. And I think by the time he makes a decision, it's going to take him some time, because the owners are persuading him to keep it going. I mean, I hope that what Rick is saying really happens by the end of next week, but I don't see that happening. I think the fact that they even took how many months to get the season started when they shouldn't have even started at all.
Well, at that point, it was about money, but I think it was a decent.
And right now, it's still about money.
Well, I know, but
the main thing is all about the money.
Right, but you're missing my point. Before you had players negotiating with owners. Here's what you had now. All of a sudden,
billionaires fighting with millionaires.
Well, true. Okay.
And now you have millionaires and billionaires fighting with a disease that they can't win.
Right, and I'll give you my prediction. I say by Sunday, August 9th. So that's, I think, less than 2 weeks. 13 days. 2 weeks.
Well, Todd, give us a real answer. I mean, we should probably check in Las Vegas and see what the book is on when the season ends.
Probably, but at least I know where we're thinking. You're thinking 4 weeks. I'm saying just about 2 weeks, and Rick doesn't even give him so we figure you're the better part of less than a week, 6 days, which is fair. I knew that we were going to get answers all over the place. I mean, I know Les, like I said, Brett Favre, you've learned how to waffle very good. So, Brett, if you're listening to this broadcast, okay, you're not the only waffler out there, okay? But that'll be for another day.
To be compared with Brett Favre is not that terrible. Even though he did nothing for my Jets, but I'll take that comparison.
Well, I don't think anybody's doing anything with your Jets, but that'll be for another broadcast. You got a lot of problems up there. But
you're not kidding, and the pandemic can't even help us.
Yeah, well, all right, TBD to be or TBC to be continued. Is that what they call it? All right, so we're talking about MLB. You know, I think any of the answers are just speculative at this particular point. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the other sports. okay, and particularly the NFL. You have an 80-player roster. Let's do some math here because it's going to take a lot. Times 32 teams. Let's have some fun and look for the calculator. Anybody got one? Probably. 80 times 32 is... We will find out from our crack statistician, Candy Ebling. After all, she's out there going to come up with...
356.
What is it?
2,560.
Well, 3,560 players. And what do we got for MLB? 60 times 30 is what?
That's 1,800, isn't it?
Right, that's half. That includes the taxi squad. When we compare... So let's talk about the NFL as in relation to all of this. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, the NFL, like I said, I thought Major League Baseball was clueless. Apparently the NFL is even more clueless. They really think they're going to have, to have a season is crazy, but to say you're going to have fans there is just really ridiculous. It's just, like I said, it is all about money. They don't want to lose money. They're all millionaires and billionaires. They don't want to lose money. We do have one player in the NFL from the Chiefs that said he ain't playing this year. I think many more will follow.
This is an interesting guy that you mentioned, and that he's not going to play this year because he's a doctor,
right?
And he's on the front lines, and he's not even he's in his internship, and he's trying to save people. And he's smart enough to realize that he just won a championship, and he'd rather be fighting the disease instead of playing football. I think we should we should be celebrating what he's doing and using him as an example to go forward and trying to move forward to destroy this virus instead of trying to just about our athletes trying to make money. It's not all about the money anymore. It's about saving lives. And that's what he's all about, and I think that's what sports should be all about. I think we should take on a campaign to save lives, not to fight to play sports, but to save lives. And by not playing, saving lives.
I agree. And you're going to have a lot of these players that are just not going to abide by social distancing and masks. Tom Brady's having practices right now with the Bucks, some scrimmages, which is not supposed to be doing that.
I'll even go a step
but he's doing it.
We social distancing, but in actuality, it's physical distancing because we can still talk to people.
Yeah,
we're trying to stay away from them physically so we don't get sick. So we should change the name of it from social distancing to physical distancing in order to save our lives, to save everyone's lives.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like I said, people are just not listening. Every other country's recovered from this pretty much. Canada's doing better. Italy's doing better. France has opened up their Eiffel Tower after months, and we're like not even close because people are not listening. And for the NFL to have a season is it's suicide. And hopefully players will look at that and see, you know what, it ain't worth it. I'm done. I'm ready for 2021. And I think you're going to get a lot more players that are going to bow out from this. And eventually they're just going to have to cancel the season because there's just no way they're going to have somebody's going to get sick and die in the NFL if they have a season.
Well, we all know it's a money grab, or at least who can lose the least amount of money. But money grab, I think, describes what you guys are talking about for sure. It's a first.
The traveling. You're going to be in cramped airplanes and cramped buses. You're going to be in locker rooms. Locker rooms are not that big. A lot of people in there. And you got medical staff in there. You got assistant coaches. You got there's a lot of personnel in the NFL, and it's such a contact sport with the tackling and the sacks. It's
what about
right
the huddles,
in your face. So
how are they going to have a huddle? How are they going to have a huddle? How are they going to line up to go against each other?
Exactly. It's crazy. And then they said they're going to have helmets where there's glass, where instead of spitting, there's going to be glass there so they don't have to talk. And it's this is ridiculous. The NFL is being so ridiculous. And you have fans out there saying, I can't wait to go to a game. You're not going to go to a game. It's not going to happen. So, the NFL just needs to just stop lying and just be real and just tell people, our season's in jeopardy right now. We're going to try to have one, but right now it's dire right now. We might not have a season, and you just need to be honest with them, and they're not.
Yeah,
true.
That is true. It's real true. You know, you're talking about the fact that we all know it's a money grab. We all know that.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's greed. It's all about greed. Wow. That's the sad part.
You're exactly right, Rick.
And it's sad when our own
argue
friends
with you when you're right.
Yeah, it's sad when our old friends from Canada are barring us from coming to their country because they're afraid we're going to take it over there. Or even the Bahamas even is not accepting people from Americans over there. I mean, that's how bad we're, like the plague. Nobody wants us around because everybody's recovered because they listened. And yet here in the United States, we're allegedly the most prosperous, most powerful country, and yet we can't even get a handle on this because you got people out there that just refuse to listen and don't want to wear masks. I mean, and it's always the same story. Well, I didn't think I'd get it. I didn't know, I thought I was okay. I'm young enough. And this thing has killed kids, They just had a little girl, 9 years old, that died from this the other day. And there was a baby born with it who died. This disease does not care who you are, how rich you are. I mean, it attacked Prince Charles. It got Tom Hanks. It's got celebrities. It's got politicians. It's got everybody. This disease does not care.
Well, in reference to the player,
interesting enough, the fact that Toronto, the Toronto Blue Jays, the owners of the team, the heads of the country there have not allowed them to play baseball in Toronto.
Yeah.
Why is Canada ahead of the United States and is smart enough to do that? Why can't we do that?
That's the $1 million question right there.
Now, let me point out the guy that you're talking about is Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who actually is an offensive lineman. So, he's the guy that...
Dr. You.
Pardon me?
Dr. Tardif.
Right, well, I'm just referring to the player less. Okay. He's an offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Andy Reid has gone on and said that he's extremely proud of the guy. And, if you're going to compare anybody to him, I would definitely go ahead and talk about Pat Tillman being a warrior in his own sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That was a very brave thing for this guy to do because he's going to get people ridiculed. I see posts on Facebook from fans, and they're relentless. I mean, I don't know what it is. I know you want to see sports, and I want to see sports just as bad. But, calling out people who don't want to play or don't want to go to games is not the way to do it. It's not good. It's not healthy, and it's not safe. And like I said, the NFL thinks they're going to have some fans out there, which is crazy. They need to wake up and stop being in fantasy land.
Yeah, when you talk about the sacrifice that Dr. Tardif is making, his current cap hits $5.5 million, and it looks like he's going to get $150,000 for the year before returning back on his long-term deal in 2021. So, and just so you know that the NFL has given their players in August 3rd deadline to decide if they want to play or opt out. So I'm glad you brought that up, Les. I wanted to make sure you have a little bit of beef with that. So, the NFL, it's not a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when before that situation blows up. So, I don't know. So, let's talk about the Marlins for a second, okay? Obviously, I was at the Zoom call, and they had 3 players scratched early before the game started, and there was no doubt that they wanted to not bow out of yesterday's game. That's fine and dandy, but now the Marlins find themselves in a very interesting predicament here. They really do. They're actually the Marlins themselves right now find themselves in a spot where they're forced to stay in Philadelphia overnight. So what do? Wait for the results. You're on pins and needles. They're continuing to go north or east of Baltimore. So where do we go with the Marlins?
They had to stand.
Well, they had to see what the Marlins should be doing, actually. 2 weeks quarantine in Philly. Let them come back home, and that's it. There's a whole big to do about Black Lives Matter, which I understand why they're doing that, but I think we should be changing it now to Every Life Matters. You know, the fight versus COVID, it should be our number one fight.
Now,
if you want to have marches and all these things, which is totally against physical distancing, you know, you need to start doing it now, because now sports is proving what we've known for 5 months now. You have to protect your own family. Family comes first. If you don't protect your family, you're not protecting anybody.
Now, let me point this out to you. According to the Cincinnati Reds Twitter page, the Miami Marlins claimed Justin Schaefer, right-handed pitcher, and left-handed pitcher Josh D. Smith by the Marlins. Obviously, they find themselves quite short-handed. I mean, this came, and mind you, this came from the Cincinnati Reds Twitter page, so the Marlins PR staff and everything with that organization finds themselves in a little bit of a tizzy situation. It really does.
Yeah, it's just bad all around. I mean, they're gonna have to quarantine everybody there. I mean, they have to, even Don Mattingly. I mean, they just have to, and it's 2 weeks. And like I said, it's in Florida. They're in Florida, for Pete's sake, which is one of the worst states to have this. And I can't even imagine how Arizona's going to do this. I can't even imagine how the Tampa Bay Rays are going to do this. I don't even know how the Atlanta Braves, because it's bad in Georgia as well, how they're going to do this. And all these other teams that are going to travel there, you know, it's just a hotbed for this stuff. So I don't even know how they're going to play.
Yeah, but the Marlins,
it's crazy.
Yeah, the Marlins are okay here in Miami. Bear in mind, spring 2.0 was fine. There were no tests, but then again, here's the deal. You're going on an airplane, right? You don't know what you have inside of an airplane. Let me tell you, any traveling I do is going to be via automobile. Forget the airplanes.
Yeah.
Then you're going into hotels, and then you're going into another city, and you don't know, again, now we don't even know what city they actually got it from. If I were a bet man, like I reiterated before, I'd say it's Georgia, Atlanta. And now Philadelphia is where it's all taking place. But then again, you never know. Could be in Philly because they had a 3-game series up there, so they spent the better part of 72 hours. So it's either Philadelphia or Atlanta. But they were on the road for a total of 5 days.
Yeah.
So where did they get it? I have no new information. I'd like to be able to think I can provide it, but unfortunately, I don't have any new information.
Yeah, they probably don't even know. They're probably tracing back where they got it, but they don't even know. It's a scary part. They could have gotten it at a restaurant. They could have gotten it just walking down the street. We don't know.
But then here begs the question, okay, with the Marlins, at what point or another can they continue all year with a competitive balance factor? This organization has been ridiculed for years as being an organization that has lost a lot. They have. Didn't help that they had an owner, Jeffrey Luria, who went out there and hosed the area to get a stadium, and probably arguably the worst area to have it. But they've been ridiculed because of their fire sales and all that. But competitive balance, they felt like they were like every team starting out. They actually felt optimistic that they could do well, and I actually thought that the Philadelphia Phillies were a team to watch out for, but the Marlins played them tough. But again, the competitive balance where you lose a lot of your key players, and as a result, by using a lot of your key players, then what? But again, the key words are competitive balance. What do you think, Rick?
They're going to have to shut it down. I mean, more people are going to test positive, and I mean, just to have that number already is scary, and it's going to get scarier, and they're going to have to self-quarantine themselves for 2 weeks. I mean, they're just going to have to, and they can't be traveling. So, I mean, the Marlins need to shut it down. And I think then eventually MLB will as well. So if I was Derek Jeter, I would just say, guys, this is not working. We need to focus for 2021, and we can't have just having one person test positive for this, but they have 12. That's staggering. So if I was Derek Jeter, I'd say, you know what, guys, and tell Major League Baseball we're not gonna participate this year.
Well, I don't think they'll have to do that. I think that if logic comes into play, and I really believe it, that by 2 weeks they'll shut it down. Right now, Rob Manfred is looking at, is this a knee-jerk reaction? But when the numbers become staggering across MLB, then you know what? I give them an A for trying. But the one thing MLB does get out of this whole thing is they won't have to deal with a public relations nightmare, millionaires versus millionaires versus billionaires arguing for money. Give them the old college try that they attempted to do it. COVID-19 wipes out. And then you hope to get another labor agreement in place by next year. You're in pretty good shape. Do you follow me?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is like an easy way out for them because they didn't look very good, in the beginning with negotiations, and people were like, we don't care about millionaires and billionaires losing money. I mean, you got people here unemployed, people who have no money. We don't care about millionaires and billionaires. And then finally they reached an agreement, and then they were starting, they like I said, they gave it the old college try, but eventually it was just inevitable that the season would be canceled. So I give them an A for effort, but unfortunately COVID put them in a sleeper hold, and they have to tap out.
Yeah, and yet MLB found itself in a very damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. I know I said this, but there's no way you can bubbleize MLB. There's no way. And you guys were smart, okay, when you said that Toronto would not let anybody in, fearing that what just took place would go ahead and cause a spike in what would go on in Canada.
Yeah. And the poor Blue Jays still don't have a home. There's rumor they're going to play in Buffalo.
Well, they are going to play in Buffalo.
We don't. I mean, they don't even have a home, which I feel bad for them.
No, they're going to play in Buffalo. I think they're talking about delaying it about 7 to 10 days until they get the facility up to MLB standards. Now the only question about it is finalized. They're going to go there. They'll have a 2-game series in Washington, and I think they'll have another road series. I don't know exactly where, but it's immaterial. Somewhere else. So they'll play, I think, the better part of 25 games in Buffalo. That's settled. Now, if you talk about the question out there whether or not they'll have to invest money into the infrastructure, if this thing gets canceled, I don't know, but it wouldn't hurt to do their minor league affiliate, the Buffalo Bison, a favor by helping them renovate the stadium anyways, as goodwill gesture. I mean, it can't hurt for your MLB to go out there and be able to pick up the slack. So, but
I got an interesting question for both of you guys.
What's that?
Explain why MLB is having the season, yet the minor league teams of all the major league teams have suspended this season. Now, why didn't the major leagues follow the minor leagues and do the same thing?
They couldn't.
Money.
Okay.
Greed.
Yet the minor leagues,
arrogance.
The bread and butter of the major league teams, that's how they get their players when guys get hurt. And they suspended their season because of this virus. Why can't the major league teams, a lot of the same owners, do the same thing?
Well, there's
arrogance.
Why can't they prove to us that all lives matter, not just black lives, everybody matters, and suspend the season?
Well,
it's all about money, and they're arrogant, and it's just stupidity.
It's a money grab, Les. I don't want to get into the all lives matter, black lives matter. I know where you're going with the analogy, but it's not appropriate in this situation. It really isn't. Again, now Don Mattingly was talking about it on the Zoom call that they would like to go ahead and increase the taxi squad. Well, it's a good idea, so you have more players. They have some of their better players in the organization anyhow. But again, it's money. Minimize your losses, but in the end, common sense will prevail. It really will. And at the rate we're going, we pretty much know that at least Rick and I believe that this thing doesn't even make it to the until the middle of August. I mean, I
hope that I'm wrong and that you guys are right, because I care about everybody. And I think we should. That should be our main focus. Is to care about our own people.
Well, we'll end it on this note, okay? And that's this: they even agreed to expand the playoffs by 10 to 16 teams. Well, why? Where does that all tie into everything? Money. But it does. 10 to 16 teams, money. So you can see why they wanted to play it. Again, good, noble time.
Now you guys, we all disagree on when this baseball season's going to end. What about the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL? When are they going to follow suit and end their seasons?
All right, well, it's a fair question. I'll say the NHL makes it to the finish line. NFL, I have a feeling that we'll know. I'm not sure whether the NFL will start if these numbers continue to spike. And here's my logic on that. You're talking about MLB, let's say as many as 30 players, on a team. I know there was 30, 28, 26. Now, throw that out the window. So we'll take the 30 players or even 60, and you're having problems with a smaller amount of players, and you're in trouble. The NBA, they were deeper into the year, but the NBA will go as far as whether the players go ahead and quit acting like they're in the NDL, the National Drama League, and do what the heck they're told. If they don't do what they're told, the NBA's in trouble. They've got a bubble. They have a workable system. WNBA, the ladies out there are complying. They should be all right out over at in Bradenton, Florida, the IMG Academy. So I think the WNBA is in good shape. The NBA could be in good shape if these players comply. NFL, college football, I'm not holding my breath. We can make all the plans we want here for coverage, but who knows what.
I think the NFL, what they're going to do is that they're going to eventually start it late, and then they're going to make it a 10-game season, and then eventually it's going to go. They're going to have to cancel it because it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. The NBA's problem is that the players just don't listen. Who was it? Lou Williams, who said he had a family emergency, and they caught him at a strip club. There was another NBA player who had like a big old massive house party. I mean, they're being careless, like a lot of people are. So that's going to doom the NBA, and these players are not going to comply. They're young and rich, and just think that it's not going to happen to them. So I don't know. It's a big question mark on the NBA, and I agree with the NHL because a lot of their games are played in Canada. They'll be fine. I think they'll be, and I think the WNBA will be fine as well.
Right. NFL, I think you're right, Rick. Shortened season is what you're looking at for the NFL. I mean, it's not like they haven't played 9 games in a season before, dating back to the strike shortened season. I think it was I'm trying to remember what year. It was in the 80s. I know that. So the NFL could be a shortened season. And I think what ends up happening is the games that get wiped out early don't get made up, and you just go through the schedule, and that's your starting point. All right. What about you, Les?
I think the NBA having it in the bubble, but I think they're going to have to be a little tighter with like a guy like Lou Williams. I mean, it's like when you go to school, you have someone sign your note when you're a kid. Okay, sign this note that I can't go to school, I have a doctor's appointment. You're going to have to verify those doctor's appointments, and it's going to have to be legitimate reasons why they leave the bubble, and they need to be tested. Like a guy like Lou Williams, I hate to single him out, and what he did is just unconscionable. It's dangerous for the well-being of his team, not just himself, but his team. And everybody, in order for the NBA to make this work, is they have to clamp down further. The bubble idea is the right idea. We have everybody quarantined, and they have to play in those games there, and they can't leave the bubble. That's the only way you're going to have that done. And I think they could possibly finish their season. But once there's an outbreak, these referees and these players and these coaches, then they're going to have to suspend that season. I hope that they'll be able to finish it the same way as the NHL. I don't see the NFL season happening. They may get as far as the first week or the second week, but I think they should suspend it before that even gets to that point and just call it quits.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that Roger Goodell has incorporated some really major rules here about what they're going to have to really go ahead and do. So, again, more power to them. They're going to get fined for going into bars, places, over X amount of people, like 12 or 15. So they've got to do that. They really do, to enforce them, but whether or not, these guys are going to comply. Of course, I know they're going to get hit with heavy fines and so forth. So, that's, so regardless of, I give the NFL a lot of credit for trying to impose strong restrictions and rules, but in the end, the amount of players you have and staff is going to turn this into a spike, and that's where it winds up. So, any closing thoughts about the I Told You So version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk? Les, did you tell us so?
I did say it from the beginning to you. You and I spoke in private about this, and I said I don't see them being able to complete the season. I wish that I was wrong, and I wish that we could be in a better situation, but I don't see that happening.
What about you, Rick? We know what you've said all along.
Like I said, I wish I was wrong about this, and like I said, I've been saying this earlier on because I just saw what happened in Italy. It was terrifying. Everybody kept saying it's just the flu, and I just thought this thing is like the plague. It's going to get worse. It's coming here, and we're not going to listen. We're not going to put on masks, and we're arrogant, and we want to defy things. So I knew we're going to be in big trouble, and I wish I was wrong about it, but unfortunately, it's just heading that way, and I just don't see any NFL. MLB will be shutting down soon. And I think, I'm going to have to get used to being a big hockey fan because the NHL is the only thing I see out there.
Yeah, well, I'll put another thing in the I Told You So category, too, because Minnesota, Eric Sugarman, the Minnesota Vikings head trainer, who doubles as the team's infection control officer, tested positive for COVID-19, the club announced today. So let's face the reality, when your infection control officer and your head trainer goes ahead, test positive, take notice, NFL or any other sport, that's bad. So with that said, guys, a good broadcast tonight. Les, why don't you go ahead and lead off and let people know how they can get a hold of you.
You can contact me from my website, www.leswolff, LESWOLFF Sports, SPORTSLLC.com. You can email me, lwolff, WOLFF, 1823 at AOL. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm just Les Wolff Sports. I'm on all those. And if anybody has any questions or anything needs to know about antiques, collectibles, or more important, about this virus, I'm happy to help anybody and everybody. Just remember, the best gift you can give in life is a memorable gift, and memorabilia is the gift of life and the gift of sports.
Okay, Rick?
You can contact me on my website. We're at www.charlottebats.com. Our email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB. And we also have another page there called Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. And I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. You can contact me on any of those social media networks.
And as for us here, you can follow us at Tribune South. That's the @ Tribune South. Facebook, South Florida Tribune. Instagram, South Florida Tribune Gets It Done. YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune, when we'll get it up sooner or later, rolling again, but COVID-19 is making it difficult for me to get out, and that's where I'd like to do my damage. One of the things I really like doing on Sundays is Serene Sunday. We'll find a serene place at some point, but I have to practice what I preach, and that's exercise, social distancing, and playing it safe. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Our LinkedIn, Scott Morgan Roth Gets It Done. You can find this broadcast, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, at southfloridatribune.com, or wherever you can get your podcasts. Some of the places that you can subscribe for free are Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you do get your podcasts. So on behalf of Les Wolff and Rick Curti, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us tonight here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and we look forward to the next broadcast. So, guys, you go out there, be safe. Job well done, and we'll catch you the next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.